I want you to picture the streets of New York and the yellow cabs that come with it. What do you picture? Do you picture the streets filled with the cars? Do you picture a scene from the movies? But specifically, I want you to focus on the cars. I want you to take those cabs, stretch them a little bit, throw a bunch of paint in them, give them some personal meaning to you, add any design you want to it. I want you to think about it, make a good image. That image that you're picturing is the Filipino jeepney. Even if you don't know what it is, it is. That vehicle is more than a taxi. It's a moving piece of art, and it's the community's soul in the Philippines. Many of you have not heard of its story, however, its story is very important. It's a universal story, and it is an example of how traditional symbols are currently getting phased out with modernization. There are three main chapters in this lifespan of the jeepney. How it started as a World War II surplus vehicle, the golden era where it gained its paint and meaning, and the modernization where it's currently getting threatened. To truly understand the jeepney, we have to go back to 1945, where World War II had just ended and the US had left thousands of military vehicles behind. At the same time, there was a need for public transportation and transportation in general in Manila. The GIZ Transfer Project explained in 2021 how jeepney's roots are directly tied to the post-World War II void of transportation, and how the Filipinos decided to modify the surplus jeeps to fill that gap. The modifications that they ended up making to the jeeps, where they stretched the chassis, gave them roofs, and added 2 benches in the back so people could sit. These first versions were very utilitarian without any decoration. However, as they gained population, they started to change into pieces of art. They gained their elaborate artistry and started to become mass-produced. Leonardo Sario was the person who led this. In 1953, he started his own company with only 700 pesos. His story is so important that the Harvard Asia Center decided to do a project on him, explaining how he grew his 700 peso shop to a multi-million peso enterprise, and how his story and the jeepney story is a symbol of Filipino ingenuity. For his vehicles, he would commission local artists to hand paint every single vehicle, so no two would look the same. They would take themes from Catholic saints all the way to basketball legends, so honestly anything they wanted. His vehicles were so well known in the Philippines that they ended up sending him to the 1964 New York World's Fair to symbolize Filipino culture. However, because they're still built on the chassis of old military vehicles that had aging diesel engines, they did not hit modern standards for emissions. Because the Filipino government has decided to grow their environmental goals, the jeepneys are starting to get threatened. In 2027, the Department of Transportation launched the Public Utility Vehicle Modernization Program. Basically, the engines needed to hit Euro 4 emissions or turn electric. While this is nice for the consumer, because they would get Wi-Fi, air conditioning, GPS, a bunch of fun little knickknacks. As the Asia Pacific Foundation of Canada explains in 2023, the financial burden is severe, and how new e-jeepneys cost around 2.5 to 4 million pesos each, and that cost is too high for smaller operators. These smaller individual operators rely on a modest day income to survive, and they can't afford the jump in price for their vehicles. Because of this, they have started to strike, and because of their strikes, there have been a growing increase of Supreme Court cases in the Philippines arguing that the government cannot phase out the jeepneys because of its social impacts. However, there's also a cultural loss. Because the vehicles are becoming more standardized, they're losing their hand-painted character and are starting to look more generic. The Sunyo Transportation Research Project 2025 explains how electrification has a genuine environmental benefit, but also creates a serious social and economic consequences for the vulnerable operators. In all, the 3 stages of the jeepney are very important in each phase. However, their story is more than that. and can be translated to many aspects of our lives here in the United States or around the world. Because modernization is growing and traditional symbols are becoming more and more threatened. For the Filipino jeepney, the main question is, can the symbol survive its own modernization?